introduce our guest and start that. So here we go. So, hi everybody, welcome to Helping Parents of Mentally Ill Children. My name's Bill McPhee, and I was basically hospitalized 6 different times. I lived in 3 group homes, and I had a suicide attempt, as well spending 5 years on the couch, basically doing nothing. Dealing with a deep, deep, dark depression. And it wasn't until I was diagnosed in 1987, and then actually um, was started a publication called Adhd magazine in 1994, and I did that for 23 years. And in the meantime, what I did is in 2014, wrote this book called The Cry of Dry Tear, Bill McPhee's Journey of Hope and Recovery with Schizophrenia. And we started this podcast not too long ago, so welcome again. And I'm coming from Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada, just actually right on the mouth of Lake Erie that runs into the Niagara River and then over Niagara Falls. And I have a guest here. My guest is Jeannine Allan. How are you today, Jeannine?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thank you for appearing on the podcast. Um, Before we start in, I just want to explain to people how I first knew you. So
Okay.
basically, Jeannine, we went to the same church together way back when. Well, I guess my son is my middle son is 18, and my daughter is she'll be 16 November 5th. And you actually helped with them in the nursery. You
Yes.
actually probably changed their diapers, or
Yeah.
at least saw them in the um, in the nursery room.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, that's how I met you. And then I think just not too long ago, I sent out some letters or some literature, and I think you responded. You responded by a messenger to me, asking if I remember you. And it took a little bit, but then absolutely, I said yes, I do remember you, Jeannine.
Yes.
So this is so I want to introduce Jeannine to you. She's struggled with a mental illness as well. She's also a parent of somebody. She's a parent with a daughter with mental illness, and Jeannine has agreed to do an interview. So I'll take a breath here, Jeannine, and let you talk about whatever you feel like talking about.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Bill. So since being 18 months old, I grew up in a foster home. And I'm 31 now, so it was my whole entire life growing up in a foster care home. Back then, we didn't know mental health, and I struggled a lot growing up. And when I was 19 years old, I left Fort Erie and moved to Niagara Falls with an ex-boyfriend of mine. And I suffered a lot of emotional abuse and trauma and stuff like that from him. Then, when I was 21, I moved to St. Catharines, and I've lived in St. Catharines since then. And about 2 years ago, I noticed I wasn't feeling the greatest after having my daughter at 24. I was worried about everything. Everything caused me to be very anxious. I had no motivation to get up, go do anything. And my anger and my moods were very off kilter, if you want to say. And so a friend of mine had suggested that I went and seek mental health help. And I was very terrified.
Yeah. And Jeannine, if I can just stop you there and ask this question, I know that it's a very good Very good place to be when you recognize that you're off kilter, as you mentioned, and
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people run into problems who have no idea that they have problems at all, or
Yeah,
lack insight into what they're going through. But it seems like you had a little bit of insight.
I did. Before I got the diagnosis and everything, um, I honestly thought I went through postpartum depression, but I didn't understand the signs or the symptoms, so I just kind of kept ignoring it, thinking everything will get better, everything will get better, my moods will change, everything will be fine. I've got this underhand. I didn't think I needed any help until I took that leap of faith, basically, went to my family doctor and said, something is wrong. I need help. And I explained my situation. I explained what I was feeling. Automatically, I got diagnosed with um, anxiety and depression. So he put me on a medication for that. I was put on Cipralex, and it worked great. But on top of my mental health, I also have epilepsy. So my medication for my epilepsy and the medication for my mental health really needed to work hand in hand so that nothing would put me in a risk of having a seizure, especially having a child. So he had promised me that he would make sure all of my medications worked hand in hand with my medication for my epilepsy. So he booked me in to see a psychiatrist at the hospital. And when that all happened, in my head, all of those stigmas ran into my head. I'm going to lose my child. I'm never going to live the same normal life that I wanted to. I'm not going to be able to do with anything with my life. I'm going to be locked up. All the stigmas that everybody thinks of somebody with mental health
Mhm.
ran through my head.
Well, you know what? And just to stop you there again, yeah, that's an very important point. Is all these things going through your head, not on non, all the time. And
Hmm.
we were talking earlier before we came on, and it just makes it worse trying to sleep to properly get sleep.
Exactly.
And when you're thinking of all these worries and what if and all that, and it's going through our mind, but then on top of it, to not be sleeping is not a good thing.
No, it's not. And that is where I was struggling a lot, even up to the past couple of weeks, where my medication had put me through so much insomnia, where I wasn't sleeping or I couldn't relax enough to go into a nice deep sleep, where I had to call my doctor and say, hey, look, I've tried melatonin, it's not working. We need to figure something else out. Where he put me on Vyvanse, and it was just a very small dose, half a tablet of the lowest dose. And you know what? I could be having a great day, bad day, lazy day, really energetic day, stuff on my mind, whatever. Within a half an hour, I am so calm. I can have a great night's sleep, which helps my moods and helps me be the best person and mom I need to be for my little girl who is 7.
Yeah.
So when I met with this psychiatrist, I had found out that I have adult ADHD. And I knew I had ADHD as a child.
Mhm.
Um, I got diagnosed with borderline personality, which means that my moods can fluctuate from happy to sad to angry to frustrated to sadness, all the way fluctuate between so many emotions in such a short period of time, where you think, oh my goodness, like there's got to be something wrong with me here. Um, Borderline also means where I could lash out at people when things aren't going my way, and that's not always a healthy way of managing things because it really can ruin a lot of friendships, a lot of relationships. I have a fear of abandonment because of my birth parents. Um, I have a lot of dissociation, a lot of personality disorders, which put me into the class of a cluster B personality disorder, which means that all the personality disorders are bunched into one, and I have a few symptoms of one, a few symptoms of another, and there's no other kind of disorder except for cluster B. I also have PTSD from the trauma I faced from my biological parents. And I like to emphasize my biological parents because my foster parents were the most wonderful parents and still are to this day, up until my mom's passing 8 years ago,
Sorry about
that
that.
were ever there.
Mhm.
So, yeah, a lot of trauma happened to me. And
Mhm.
when I looked at borderline, I realized it wasn't my fault. I didn't do anything wrong, but face that trauma that I didn't want to, which really made me have a lot of emotional dysregulation. It didn't let me trust people very often. I'm afraid of people leaving and never coming back. I have, like I said, I'm working on not lashing out as much. My emotional regulation is very hard, and currently I'm on a couple medications. But what is so great is that my medication that works for my epilepsy also works for my mental health, and vice versa. So I'm very lucky in that way that now I know everything is under control with medication, working well with each other, and I'm safe.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that, Jeannine. Jeannine, I'd like to switch over the conversation now to talking about your daughter. Now, I know that you mentioned that you could be at any mood then during the day. You can be high, you can be low, you can be grumpy, you
Mm-hmm.
can be tired, all this kind of stuff. And I know even for myself, sometimes in the morning it's a struggle to get up. It's a struggle to get out of bed, especially when I set my alarm for six a.m. But um, it's like that now. So tell me a little bit about you. Like so your daughter, she's great. She's 7 years old. She's in school. Um,
Yes.
but you have. Do you ever have a hard time? Do you have hard mornings sometime getting going in the morning and getting her off to school?
Absolutely. Um, I rely so much on an alarm. My alarms are my life. And you know what? I think that if I didn't have my little girl,
Mm,
there would be days that I don't want to get up.
yeah,
But because of her, because I know she loves school, because I know she enjoys going to school, not only for the education, but for the social aspect, is that I have the to get up and get her ready for school. And yeah, it's very difficult some days. Some days we butt heads on what she's going to wear, what she wants to eat in the morning, if she wants to eat in the morning,
mm,
everything else. Or even if I'm tired, I have to kind of put my issues aside for the sake of my daughter. To sometimes put on that happy face, even though I'm not very happy, and just realize, okay, you know what? I need to focus on one thing at a time here. And first and foremost is my little girl. Because I've said it before and I'll say it again. forever is if it wasn't for my little girl, I probably wouldn't be as far in the good area of mental health as I am. But it doesn't mean that every day is a walk in the park. It is
Right.
very hard, very exhausting sometimes
Yes.
being a mom while having mental health.
Right. Now, I think maybe not talking this section, but when we're doing our group, um, you mentioned that you thought that the schools were very supportive and that you they work with you and your daughter and I think you said she's at a good school and has good teachers.
Yes, my daughter is at one of, I think, is one of the best schools. As soon as I figured out that my daughter in August has ADHD and ODD, I automatically emailed the teachers when we found out school was going back in session after COVID. And I just said, hey, this is what's going on. She's been diagnosed. She's off medication. We're working hard with her. Like, I'm working hard with her that this is what I'm expecting. I automatically got an email back stating, okay, when school gets back in session, when we get the kids all adjusted to the new atmosphere fear of school, we're going to give you an email and we'll have an IEP meeting just to be on the safe side. And you know what? I did that. And I was so happy that I did that as a precautionary,
Mhm.
just in case something were to arise if she had any issues.
Mm.
And her teacher has been so communicative with me on what my daughter needs, what she's struggling with, how I can help her. She has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And I think we talked earlier too, which is always an asset and great, is that you mentioned that your daughter has a couple very close friends at school, and she has friends, and that can be so important for a child. And
Yes.
I think it's very sad when a child is so isolated and by themselves and have no
Hmm.
friends. And I just feel so happy for you that your daughter has a few friends.
Yes, I actually am very glad that my daughter has a really nice group of friends. There's a four girls in her class who she is best friends with. They play together every day. They don't have fights. They don't exclude. And even if they did find out that Hannah has ADHD, I don't think that they would ever exclude her.
Mm.
Um, the parents of these children, I know, and I know that they do a wonderful job teaching their children right from wrong, the proper morals, proper way to um, treat people. And I know that my daughter is also on the other end, and she gives that as well to children who may not have a lot of friends or who may have different mental health illnesses or special needs. So, yeah, we have a good group of students around my daughter who would be there to support her, stick up for her,
Yeah,
and
that's
everything.
great. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Now, I know that when I was talking to you earlier, we talked about, that you're looking toward, I know you're going back to school, but
Yes.
plus you would like to, be part of an advocacy group or be part of maybe doing some public speaking or,
Hmm.
doing things like that. And that's a great goal. If you can do that, I think one of the things to do start that is to start volunteering with some kind of organization, whatever you pick, and you just got to focus on that. And the way what happened when I speak, I've done literally hundreds and hundreds of talks in the past, right across North America and internationally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah, and basically, how I started is after being diagnosed with schizophrenia, there was a time where I lived in a group home, and I lived in this group home not very long, but I wasn't there for very long. And then one time, the Gateway residential places, which was a group home that I was in. After I got out of there, they were having their annual board meeting, and they asked me to come and speak. And I was on the board, and I also was a resident there. And it was the first time I spoke, and I put a I put a speech together, and I gave it, and it was really well received. And after that, I started to get calls to do more and more speaking. And
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, and then when I had my magazine, I would speak right across North America. And I talked about my main signature talk was living with schizophrenia, and I did that. So, and I ran that publication for 23 years. So, yeah, yeah. So, and as well as, as if you are going to be doing speaking or trying to do that, as I told you before, you need, as a public figure, you need to be transparent, and, you just need to tell it like it is. And because there are no punches, because mental illness, it's not easy. It's the most challenging thing I've ever gone in my life, and I'm just basically single. Well, I have 3 children, but I still I still have 3 children, but they were younger, and I was able to go out and speak. I've done in the last 2 weeks, I've done 3 podcasts that I was guests on, and yeah, so over the internet, and yeah, so I still do some of that. Yeah, so that's what you need to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so before before I want to talk, I'm going to plug our discussion groups. But before we do anything, before I discuss that anymore, did you have anything else you would like to say, or something you'd like to point out, or that you think it's important, or any tips for parents with mentally ill children?
The main thing is to always accept the help that comes in your hands, because I know when I got my daughter diagnosed, I was scared. I thought I had done something wrong. I thought maybe I let her down. But when I got the therapy help for my daughter, within the middle of October, we were done our therapy groups at Path Zones. It was just basically accepting the help and having a positive mindset to it. Because now, her and I have the most amazing bond ever, and that basically the meltdowns have dissipated. And if the schools are saying, like, we need to try this, or hey, give us a call if you have a concern or whatever, don't feel embarrassed to call and ask for help, because I recently did that, and I realized that I just want to set my daughter up for success,
Hmm.
and that's what's key, is setting her up for success.
Great.
And also with myself is I'm going through a lot of group therapies. Right now I'm through the GEM program, which is an intensive group therapy that helps you manage your emotions effectively and work through traumatic events. And I have learned so much from that. But before that, I was in DBT, CBT, a managing emotions class, an ADHD class. But getting into the GEM program took a very scary experience for me to finally be able to be accepted into that program. And that was one day I was verbally attacked by somebody who was supposed to be there to care, to care about me, to love me, where I had a mental breakdown and I had to go into the emergency mental health ward because I just broke down and cried and I couldn't stop crying. Where I had my good friend, her and I have a very specific safety plan that if I don't stop crying or I can't calm down within 2 hours, I need to go talk to somebody. And I did that, and the psychiatrist who I spoke with turned around and finally got me into the program I knew I needed to be in. And thankfully for that, I am now in this program, and I feel like I'm doing so much better because of it. And all I always say is that I'm not going to let my past experiences, whether bad from my birth family or good from the foster family, define my future. Because as I was taught in the GEM program, is that you can't change the past.
Right.
And you can't look forward into the future. You have to live with what's happening right now in the present.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, and I think again, I think that we can never judge anybody. I mean, we've only walked in
Exactly.
our own shoes. We've only walked in our own shoes. That's why we can't judge. And you're mentioning, yeah, that it helps you. So that's kind of a segue. I wanted to share to our viewers that. On my website, billmcphee.ca, you can get for free the ebook, my ebook, the secret to success, the secret to recovery, and that's downloadable. As well, what I'm doing up till the end of December is that we're having Zoom groups, and Zoom groups basically can they're called discussion groups, and what it is that we're getting people to come on our Zoom group to talk about mental illness and mental health, and especially for parents of mentally ill children. So we've actually started up a group. We've started, and one of the dates that were started first that Jeannine's part of is the date would be Tuesday, November 3rd, November 10th, November 17th, and the 24th. And from 3:30 to 5 o'clock, we do a Zoom group with multiple people just as a discussion to be a support for people know that they're not alone. They can commute. They can have a bond with each other and different things like that. So I really urge you to check it out, to go to the website, billmcphee.ca, or phone me. My telephone number is 289-320-8079, and we can book you into that. So it's just another extra support from people who have been through mental illness, and it's not easy. That's why we need each other, and we need to support each other. Okay, Jeannine, thank you very much for appearing here.
And thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Now, a lot of you may roll your eyes right now, but before I close, I'm going to end in a word of prayer. So if you are rolling your eyes now, this might be a good time for you to leave if you're offended by prayer. So, Lord, we just want to lift up Jeannine and thank you for her. Thank you for her daughter, Hannah. And we ask, Lord, that you just bless them both and that you would give them the desires of their heart when they need help, that they'd be able to get help, and when they need you, that you'd be there for them. We thank you for their lives, and we just ask that you'd help Jeannine on a daily basis, and help Hannah as well. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thanks a lot there, Jeannine.
Thank you.
And you're going to be there on Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to end this now here.
Okay, thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.